U.S. Attorney General Matt Gaetz. Because if you were wondering what Trump without the guardrails looked like, well, we're getting an idea beyond the theoretical. We are starting with breaking news on so many fronts related to President-elect Donald Trump's transition. President-elect, of course, Trump announced just minutes ago on Truth Social that he is picking Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida to be the next U.S. Attorney General. Gaetz is currently facing a House Ethics Committee investigation over whether he may have, and I should note before I even outline the charges, Gaetz denies it all, but the House Ethics Committee in a statement earlier this year said they're looking into whether he may have, quote, engaged in sexual misconduct and illicit drug use, accepted improper gifts, dispensed special privileges and favors to individuals with whom he had a personal relationship, and sought to obstruct government investigations of his conduct, unquote. Again, Gaetz denies it all. Gaetz, of course, also famously led the movement to oust former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. In that post on Truth Social just minutes ago, Trump said of Gaetz, quote, Matt will end weaponized government, protect our borders, dismantle criminal organizations, and restore Americans' badly shattered faith and confidence in the Justice Department. Matt will root out the systemic corruption at the Department of Justice and return the department to its true mission of fighting crime and upholding our democracy and Constitution. This Attorney General announcement comes on the heels of two other significant Trump picks this afternoon and one yesterday. Trump also plans to appoint a one-time Democrat who announced this fall she's a Republican, former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii, to be the Director of National Intelligence. Yesterday we heard that he intends to nominate Fox and Friends Weekend co-host Pete Hegseth, who is a decorated veteran, to be Secretary of Defense. Buried amidst all these announcements and less shocking news, Trump officials confirmed what CNN had reported 2 days ago, that President-elect Trump wants Senator Marco Rubio of Florida to be his Secretary of State. So let's dive into all of this with our team. We're going to start with CNN's Kristen Holmes, who's covering the Trump transition, plus CNN's Chief Legal Affairs Correspondent Paula Reed. Kristen, tell us more about the decision to pick Matt Gaetz to be the U.S. Attorney General, the top cop.
Well, it certainly seems that Marco Rubio might have been put out today as a buffer for two other much more controversial picks with Matt Gaetz and Tulsi Gabbard. Now, when it comes to Matt Gaetz, a couple things that we need to go over here, and that is what the Trump administration wants in an AG, an Attorney General, and what it wants out of the Justice Department. One of the things that we have talked about extensively is how Donald Trump plans to run the Justice Department. He does not want to see it as an extension of the executive branch. He wants to see it as something that is completely underneath the executive branch. And in order to do that, he needs an Attorney General who is on board. And there's almost no one who is on board with Donald Trump more than Matt Gaetz. Now, this was a surprise to a number of even his insiders and allies. However, the people that I know who are close to the former president are applauding this decision. They have said that they believe Matt Gaetz is capable, that he is smart. Just a reminder, Matt Gaetz has appeared by Donald Trump's side a number of times on the campaign. He prepped him for both debates, and he is somebody who has essentially followed through on Donald Trump's agenda in the House time and time again. He is a bomb thrower, and the big question, of course, being whether or not he can actually get confirmed. But one of the conversations we have been having over the last week and a half is what exactly Donald Trump needed in an Attorney General. With the names floating around, none of them were as loyal to the former president as Matt Gaetz is. And the other thing to point out here, Donald Trump has said a number of times that he wanted to pick people that he knew would further his agenda, people that he believed were loyal to him, who believed in the cause of Make America Great Again. Again, there is no one who is more loyal to Donald Trump than Matt Gaetz. So in this idea that Donald Trump wanted to build the Department of Justice as an extension or underneath the executive branch, to where essentially he would have control over not only the Department of Justice, but the Attorney General, the legal cases that have been brought against him, seeking retribution against various attorneys and judges. He has found somebody who he clearly believes will help him further that agenda in Matt Gaetz. Of course, we are also asking questions right now as to how exactly this seemed to have unfolded so quickly. We had been going through the list with various senior advisors. We had been talking about where Donald Trump's mindset was at, and at no point, at least so far, had we heard that he was mulling Matt Gaetz as a top contender. So, of course, we're reaching out to our sources to see how exactly this unfolded, but when you really take a step back And again, you go over all of the rhetoric we have heard from Donald Trump for the past 2 years, there really is not a better pick for what Donald Trump wants out of an attorney general and out of a Department of Justice than Matt Gaetz.
Yeah, he's always been saying, when he in his first term, he always said that he wanted a Roy Cohn. Where's his Roy Cohn at the Justice Department? Or he thought that Eric Holder was a very loyal attorney general for Barack Obama. And this, I guess, is his Roy Cohn. How often do Trump and Gaetz speak, Crispin?
They see each other. They speak all the time. They see each other all the time. We know that he's been in and out of Mar-a-Lago on multiple occasions. We saw him on the plane on multiple occasions, traveling with Donald Trump, the campaign. Again, notably, he was the one who prepared Donald Trump for both debates. I actually talked to one source who said that they believed that Matt Gaetz, if he decided to ever leave Congress, he would be an amazing debate prepper because he was the one who actually took it a step further with Donald Trump, pushed him in ways that some of his other senior advisors did not. Now, again, if he's ever going to leave Congress, it appears that perhaps that would be for the job of Attorney General, not someone who preps someone for debates. But Donald Trump and Matt Gaetz speak all the time. They have a very consistent relationship.
And Paula, you've been talking to sources today, and your reporting suggested that they did not think that Matt Gaetz' name was on the short list for Attorney General candidates.
Yeah, nowhere was his name mentioned in any of the conversations that I've been having over several months about who Trump, if reelected, would select as his Attorney General. They were still talking about Matthew Whitaker, the former acting Attorney General, Ken Paxton, the Texas Attorney General. And one of the reasons that Gaetz' name did not often enter the conversation is because he has, of course, been under criminal investigation by the Justice Department for several years. Now, last year that investigation was closed. He was not charged. But this investigation into the congressman was looking at allegations of possible sex trafficking and allegations of obstruction of justice, trying to interfere with that investigation. And that probe was actually started during the first Trump administration. It was overseen, it was opened by Attorney General Bill Barr. And it lasted for several years, and it ramped up when his longtime friend and confidant, Joel Greenberg, flipped, became state's witness, and started providing evidence against the congressman. Now, he repeatedly denied wrongdoing. Like I said, he wasn't charged, but the congressman is now the subject of an ethics probe on the Hill, looking at many of the same allegations. So it was always thought that this would make him a non-starter for a potential attorney general pick. But here, President-elect Trump believes that this is the person that will go to the Justice Department and do what he wants him to do. The question, of course, is whether he can get confirmed. That remains to be seen. But if you want someone to go and root out corruption, you are selecting someone who has actually been under investigation for obstruction of justice, something that was open in a Trump administration. So that's why I think part of why this is such a controversial and surprising pick.
Right, although I guess if Matt Gaetz were here, and Congressman Gaetz, you have an invitation to come on the show. If Gaetz were here, he'd say that's precisely why he should be picked, because he's innocent. That's what he argues. And this is an example of the weaponization of government.
I would push back on that, though, Jake, because again,
that's not me saying it.
I know,
I'm channeling my inner Gaetz.
Because we're going to hear this, but it was the Trump Justice Department that opened the gates.
Of course. And we should note that the House Ethics Committee, which is 50% Democrat, 50% Republican, has looked into the allegations against him. And as recently as June, when they put out a statement, they dismissed some of them, but continued to investigate the ones that I mentioned at the top of the show. I guess the question I have for both of you is, will these accusations, and accusations are not convictions, will they prove problematic for a Senate confirmation process? Or there's also the possibility that Donald Trump is going to try to use a recess appointment just to put him in there without confirmation. Paula, what do you think?
Well, I think it will certainly make for a very explosive, provocative confirmation hearing in covering the criminal investigation for several years. I mean, the allegations here have to do, again, with alleged sex trafficking, allegedly having sex with someone who was only 17 at the time. We reported on parties that were sort of drug-fueled, sex parties in gated neighborhoods in Florida. It's all very salacious, and I guess it's up to voters, up to the senators to determine if these are things that they believe disqualify him from being Attorney General, because Attorney General Merrick Garland, of course a Biden appointee, decided that the conduct was not actually criminal. They did not want to move forward with the case. So I think in terms of being disqualifying, it's a very salacious, tawdry investigation. I do think those senators will probably want to look pretty closely at those allegations of trying to obstruct the investigation. And that I think is probably even more problematic to the role of being Attorney General if you were trying to interfere allegedly with a federal investigation. So again, it will make for a very exciting, very interesting confirmation hearing, and it's up to the senators to decide if this is disqualifying.
If there's a confirmation hearing.
True,
Because
yes,
remember,
yes,
if Donald
yes.
Trump wants the Senate to adjourn so he can do recess appointments, this seems like a decent one that he might pick, if I had to guess.
I would pick it as well.
Yeah, Paula Reed, Kristen Holmes, thanks so much. Let's go to CNN Tonight.